I wanted to do a quick episode about a few fish that are not good for beginners, bad for beginners, but not because they're bad fish. Bad fish to me are things like Chinese algae eaters that people buy and think they're going to eat algae and they don't, and they get big and mean. I'm talking about fish that probably aren't suitable for a beginner for his first or her first fish tank. And there are a few reasons for that. One, they're too touchy, or the other, because they're not good community fish in any sense of the word, whether you want an aggressive cichlid tank, which is a community tank, or a peaceful, community tank with guppies and other fish in there. These fish don't fall in either one of those regions. And I'm going to start with one which is rather exotic and it typically retails for, depending on the size, close to $200. And it's the African lungfish, or Protopterus doloi or Protopterus annectens. This one's a doloi because it's spotted. Annectens doesn't have as many spots. But they both look the same except for the little pattern on the body. And they both grow to 4 feet in size. And you'll see these not so much in a public aquarium, in a store, but a public aquarium. We've shipped a few to places around the country, and there's one display in Albuquerque with our fish. They're really interesting because I've never had them long enough to grow them out here, but they get very personable. They come up, they recognize the owner, they know it's ready for food, but the problem is they take bites out of their prey, and they're nocturnal feeders. So if you have them with any other fish, they're going to take chunks out of them. So this is one of those few fish that you can only keep as a single individual pet. But they're very interesting species. They are not as exotic as they are considered very common in Africa. In fact, they're a food source. Well, not so much anymore, but back when there weren't natives and huts in Africa, they used to take these as food for dry seasons. They would take them, and when they cocooned in the mud flats, they'd keep them in their huts, and they could open up that little block of mud, and there's fresh fish for them. Because these guys could cocoon for several years, and then when the rainy season comes back, they can break out of their little mud and start breeding and feeding and growing again. So these are, I don't know how good the food is. I've never eaten lungfish, but it's a pretty neat exotic food, and I recommend it as a pet, but never for a beginner. Or if you're a beginner, just be prepared to get a second tank if you want to put anything else in your house. Obviously, these guys are called lungfish because they're a labyrinth breather. They have gills, and they have what's similar to a lung, and so they can breathe air, and that's how they survive outside of the water in the mud flats for several years until the rainy season comes again. Interesting evolution, and they're very prehistoric. This guy is a 100% healthy lungfish with all his fins. His fins look like little tiny feet in the front and back. He has 4 of them. They often come in from the wild, bitten off from some other creature, or bitten off from a fellow lungfish, because they'll put them all in one bag. That's actually the #1 cause of damage when you get lungfish is the shipping. But you're supposed to ship these individually, by the way, other wholesalers. So they grow back. So don't worry about it if you have a little missing leg. As long as it doesn't go all the way to the body and kill the growth plate, that leg will grow right back. No, not right back, 2 months. The next group of fish, and I'm going to use just one of them to represent that class of fish, is catfish. Catfish are beautiful accessories to your aquarium. They inhabit the bottom zone of the aquarium. They're great scavengers. You have to be careful of very small fish that can fit in their mouths. But other than that, they're great pets. But there's a few that you'll find in the pet store because now they're tank raised, so they're not as uncommon, but they can outgrow fish tanks, all fish tanks. And a couple of them are the red-tail catfish and the tiger shovelnose, as well as the hybrids of those 2 catfish. I've run out of red-tail catfish till next week. We do sell quite a few of them, along with the tiger shovelnose. And I brought in a couple of the tiger shovelnose. These guys are beautiful catfish. And just be prepared, beginners. If you get these guys because you think they're really pretty and exotic and you know they'll grow, they grow pretty quick. So you're looking at maybe a year before you're going to need to get a larger tank for these guys. The beauty of these, unlike the lungfish that we looked at, they're not ambush predators in this way that they'll take bites out of other fish. They'll just eat small fish whole. So as you can get these with bigger predator fish, bigger aggressive fish, as long as they can't fit in their mouths, but they get big and their mouth gets like this. So there's not gonna be many fish eventually that you can bring in. I'd say 9 out of 10 times though, people don't have the opportunity to grow them that big. They usually outgrow the tank in a few years. They get a bigger tank, they put some cichlids and other things in there. They'll probably max out around here before the environment's just too stressful for them. But we're talking several years. These guys are, their scientific name is Pseudoplastysoma fasciatus. Fun to say, and they are a good fish, good medium. They inhabit not just the bottom, but the middle layer of the tank. So you see a lot of activity from tiger shovelnose catfish as they swim around trolling for food. I just don't recommend it as a good beginner fish, just because he's gonna eat most of the other fish that you wanna try out. So just be prepared if you're gonna try this guy. I don't wanna say don't get any fish to a beginner. It's just be prepared that this guy's gonna force you to get a larger fish tank, or after a couple years, take them back to your aquarium store so that they can adopt them. So the biggest reason really is not because of the temperament, but because of its growth. It's normal that any fish, oh, and it has a very big mouth, which is kind of like growth. The mouth grows too. So anything that fits any catfish mouth, fish's mouth. I put the red-tailed catfish in the same category. Very affordable fish though. You get these for like 24 bucks in a pet store. Amazing value. These were exotic, well over $100 fish a couple decades ago when they had to come in the wilds from South America, but they're all from the Amazon basin, the ones I'm referring to. There's also stuff like the Mekong Delta and some fish that we've brought in, like the Goonch catfish, another one like these guys, really cool, but it grows with a mouth so big that it can eat a small child. So that's another one to avoid if you don't want to not have a community. If you want to have a community tank of any sort, avoid it. Okay, this is a funny fish. This is the flowerhorn. And there's a whole can of worms here, because what is a flowerhorn? A flowerhorn is a red devil crossed with something else, a Trimaculatus. There's flowerhorns that mixed with another hybrid, the blood red parrot, or any other parrot, which is always a hybrid fish, except for the pistatus, which is a true Parrot Cichlid from Colombia, but that one has no relationship to the actual Parrot Cichlid that you normally see in the pet store. So the Parrot Cichlid in the pet store is a hybrid. That's combined with red devils and Trimaculatus, and they create flowerhorns. And flowerhorns were first bred in Taiwan, or created, I guess, in Taiwan for fighting. And they were a gambling fish, like Siamese fighting fish, betas, but they're bigger and meaner and have a much better battle. You can see it better. We don't sell flowerhorns for that purpose, but we do sell quite a few of them because they really have remarkable coloration. They're active. They get along with other fish their same size when they're juveniles. If you're a beginner and this is your first tank, you have to be aware that these guys will grow big and mean, especially the males. When they get, the bigger the hump, the meaner the fish. And the bigger the hump, better quality flowerhorn. These little guys will get a hump. I can't tell at this size, this is a juvenile, whether this is a male or a female yet. When you're going to a pet store and you want to get a male, you don't even bother at this size. You want to wait till they're maybe a solid 3 inches. I'd call this 2.5 inches. And the males will already start to get a little prominence, just a thicker forehead. If at 3 inches they're getting a thicker forehead, they're going to have a pretty good hump on their head. Some are bred for like almost golf ball shaped humps. Those you normally won't get in a pet store for less than $150. And some, I have a Flowerhorn that I'm going to show next. I want to show what these things grow into that retails for $500. So it just, there's all kinds of different grades and colorations of Flowerhorns because of all this hybridizing and breeding. It's a class of the aquatic hobby all into itself. Not as popular as it was when I first got into wholesaling fish, but still pretty popular. And lately I see them coming back, partly because of their beauty and not necessarily their meanness. I haven't had anyone. I used to have pet stores from Louisiana asking if they could buy some fighting purposes in the bayou, and I never imported them for that purpose, so they didn't get any from me. Fish and Wildlife. So this guy will grow to what I'm going to show you next. I'd like to show what happens when I'm curious. I don't think he'll do anything with any small fish. Yeah, these are just some female guppies, and you know, at this size, he's safe with anything. This is what they grow to. And this guy's not growing, this guy is not finished with his growing. He's gonna grow, oh, I've had him here, 12 inches. When they're 12 inches, they are so mean. They'll come right to the front of the tank. I mean, they have different personalities. Some are more aggressive than others. Hybridized fish can be weird. They're not as predictable. Generally, these guys are so aggressive. This is a male. You can tell by the giant hump on his head. They'll come right to the front of the tank, just mean as a snake, or mean as a male Flowerhorn. And it looks like they'll want to eat you when they're hungry. If you put your finger in the fish tank, they'll bite it. But this guy, I've noticed we brought him in a week ago, and he has not been very aggressive. So that's good. Usually I have to pull my finger up really quick, but he came in with beautiful colors, beautiful formation, and this is a grade A show quality Flowerhorn. He will retail for about $499 and 99 cents, as long as we still have the American penny. But yeah, you can see why people spend the money. But they are nippy and mean, some of them. You might look out, and this guy might be peaceful enough to keep with other large, aggressive species. But you don't always know. That's one of the beauties of breeding, I guess, for fighters. Some of them are aggressive fighters, and some of them aren't. So I can see why there's an appeal in making this into a fighting fish. I don't think this guy would win, though. He just wants to be pretty. I want to show one more hybridized fish that can be mean, so it's always risky to add to a beginner's tank.
Those guppies cowering in the corner.
Do you blame them? But he's too in shock to respond to the guppies. Yeah. I thought maybe he would go after him, but yeah, he's a little freak. Here's another red devil based hybrid, very goofy looking. People love the look of this fish. It's called a Parrot Cichlid. Like the Flowerhorn, the true red blood Parrot Cichlid does not exist in nature. It's a red devil, which does exist in nature, hybrid-based fish. And it's hybridized with different species to give different coloration. These guys, though, at least it's a natural process. It's not like glowfish, which were created in a scientific lab in China. These are just hobby-based created fish, hybridizing, crossbreeding different species of fish, just like they do in the plant world, to get different looking hybridized species. So the blood red Parrot Cichlid, because he's a hybridized fish, he hasn't developed in nature to have a consistent personality, developed over a millennia to have certain traits. So these guys can be psychotic at times. You don't know exactly what you get when you get a Parrot Cichlid. So when you buy one in a store, get it for its looks, good for its beauty, but be prepared that you might have a monster on your hand. So I'm sure some people in the audience here have had these Parrot Cichlids that turned on all the other fish in the tank and just started attacking everyone. They don't all do that, but it happens. So I want you to be aware that blood red parrots, we sell a lot of them, do have their personality quirks. If you do get one that's a real big aggressive fish, I suggest you just take it to a pet store if you don't have the right fish that are compatible with them. They'll give you a little credit. They'll find another home where the fish are bigger and more aggressive for this guy. They are pretty in an odd way, but no relationship at all to the true Pistatus Parrot Cichlid that are brought in from time to time from Colombia. Those are rare, don't even look like these guys, and they're found in nature and created through natural evolution. There's a class of fish that just need a little more care than other fish. Discus are one of them. So this is kind of my final example I'm actually going to show on this little episode. Discus fish need 80 degrees plus water temperatures. They need at minimum frozen bloodworms and ideally live brine shrimp, live bloodworms if you can find them, live blackworms. The real hobbyists in Europe actually grow their own live feeders for their discus. That's how they thrive. So first you don't even bother with the prepared foods from any of them. I'm not even going to mention their names because I like all those companies. Hikari, Tetra, Sarah, all of them have discus food. Don't bother. They're not going to eat it. Now I'm going to get a bunch of people that say, I got my fish to eat discus food. But if there's anyone who actually can grow out a discus on prepared food from any of those companies, please let me know because I haven't had much success in this warehouse, and I don't know anyone in our trade that can get around not feeding them frozen foods or live foods to help them thrive. That, and you need nice, warm, clean water. Makes it at least a medium level to expert fish for a freshwater aquarium hobbyist. But, it's not to say you can't grow with this fish if you're a beginner, but do your research, please. They're beautiful fish. They're not cheap. Some of these fish, they're great for beginners if you're studious and really want to do your homework before you bring them into your home. This would be one of them. So the scientific name of all these colorful fish are Symphysidum aquafasciatus. These guys are all bred for color. The little genes were brought out on the colors that look beautiful. We saw Heiko Blair on our show talk about the origin of the species in the aquarium trade. They were brought over wild from South America. They were bred by Europeans, mainly Germans, to get the color until they got to the point where they got reds, red turquoise, blue turquoise, solid reds, solid yellows, red faces, yellow faces, those are called marlboros, just a whole host of different color patterns. There's a few pioneers. Watley's one of them. Hans, Discus Hans, that's another guy. Heiko Blair was another one. These guys all really pioneered bringing discus to the trade and developing these magnificent colors. Now most of them come from Asia. They're pond raised there, and the price has come down. But if you can get European stock, they tend to be a little stronger. The best discus, my favorite discus, are wild discus. They can really handle aquarium conditions much better than these dainty little overdeveloped pretty fish. But they don't have as much color, so I bring them in. They're twice the price. They sit here in the warehouse. Guys, if you consider discus, think about wild ones. They're just wonderfully aggressive, tough fish. The natural instincts of these fish are gone. They're pretty, they run around, they eat, but the wild discus will go flat at night. That's why they have a flat shape. They go under rocks and under logs when they sleep, so the predators can't find them, and then during the day they come back out at night. They come back out during the day. These guys won't do any of that. They'll just swim around. But either way, they both need hot water and live food. So I guess the theme of this show, because I don't want to spend an hour showing fish that aren't suitable for beginners. All these are fine for beginners that are willing to do their homework. There are a whole bunch of other fish. There's chocolate gouramis, licorice gouramis, clown killifish. You'll buy and you say, oh, these clown killifish are too small. Why would you even sell that to me if you buy it from like an online store and didn't do your homework? They're this big. That's just how big they are. Look for stuff that says micro. If it says micro, it's small. If you buy licorice gourami, because they're not very expensive and they look colorful, remember, they're small and they need pH of down at 6. So if you have a tank that's 7.5, they're just going to die. Same thing with chocolate gouramis and samurai gouramis. All these are okay for beginners as long as you do your homework. All the fish I just showed on the show are fine for beginners if you know what you're going to get. So please do your homework. Independent pet stores are fantastic to go to. They'll tell you, if they have a good fish department, exactly what you're getting. If you go to Petco and PetSmart, it's not going to happen. But aquariumfish.com, we do a lot of work with them, have all these fish. They don't have a big biography on each single one of them. Even the good reputable online stores, you need to do your homework. The beauty of going to an independent aquarium store is they've already done their homework and they can answer your questions. But there's nothing wrong with buying fish online. Prepare yourself first. Just look at it, and that's what's the beauty of this hobby is all the knowledge for this whole other underwater world in the jungle belt that we bring into this warehouse and ship off to the stores. Every one of these fish we're showing and the other 500 species here has amazing stories. So, you know, just delve into a few and bring them into your tank and see if you can recreate their habitat. Anyways, that's one of the big appeals for me in this hobby. But you know, if you're brand new to this hobby and you just want to play it safe, you can go back to one of our earlier episodes and it just gives you a good dozen fish that are really suitable for beginners. They're hardy, they're not too big, and they get together with each other. Before you turn off the channel, please like and subscribe. I'm not sure where it is, but you know, you can't do any of it unless you get an aquarium.